Packers came across, free play. Lockett gets hit and hangs on.
In general, the playoff loss all the way back in January must feel like eons ago. A lot has happened in the world since then. What have you learned about yourself this offseason?
The biggest thing that I learned about myself is just not being able to attach myself to the things that don't really matter in life. Like the coronavirus hit and a lot of people lost themselves. But I learned that my life was already a quarantine before any of this stuff ever hit. Like my life didn't really change. I like watching TV, like doing all this stuff. But you start to realize that throughout this life, if the economy can change, if businesses can get shut down, people don't find their identity in clothes anymore. They can't find their identity in the clubs anymore when those things shut down. And you got to ask yourself, who am I? Who am I outside of football? Who am I when I'm by myself in a room? And you start realizing relationships and friendships and family are the true essence of what continues to make you go, as well as for me, my faith in God. And so it helps me detach myself from the things that I thought truly mattered now that I know all of this stuff can be taken away with just a pandemic.
Given the state of the virus, how comfortable are you coming back to training camp?
I'm very, very nervous. I can tell you that. I'm more nervous than exciting. So we just got to play it by ear. I'm in Texas, so I see how bad it is. Like, you know, I got family and stuff that's older, you know, like I just dealt with somebody that passed away that was in my family, but it wasn't because she was sick. It was, you know, other things. So like for me personally, I don't want to have to deal with more deaths, and I don't want to be somebody that's carrying something that's asymptomatic and I give it to a family member and now I got to deal with the fact that I was the reason this person died. Like, I just don't want to have to go through that and deal with that. So, I mean, obviously, I know at the same time, a lot of players are concerned, but I know some coaches are concerned too, because they're of age to where they might not be asymptomatic. So I know if it's safe for the coaches, then I know that it'll be safe for me to be able to go out there and play as well, because nobody wants to get sick and nobody wants to die.
Can this season actually work? And if it does, what do you think it's going to look like?
I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's not going to work. All I know is that it's going to be different. It's going to be weird. Say, for instance, if a team makes it to the Super Bowl and star players don't get to play because they contracted the disease, or the virus, I mean. So what do? Do you push the Super Bowl out? Do you not? It's just a lot of things. Some star players might not be able to play. What happens if some people sit out? What happens if, with their contracts? There's just so much stuff up in the air, but I think everybody's just more concerned with the unknown. And no matter how many rules you put in place to be able to stop it or to be able to help prevent yourself, it's kind of like, well, what happens when we fly away? What happens when we go to those hotels? What happens if somebody gets sick on the road and they can't stay at the hotel? The hotel doesn't want anybody that's sick, so where do they stay at? And so it's like so many things that you got to kind of think about, and it's so many things that's outside of our control. So it's just going to be hard to see if it works. I see baseball can work because it's easy to social distance. Basketball is a little tougher. Football is way more tougher. You get tackled, you slap hands, people spit on their gloves, they drop their mouthpieces, other people pick it up. Like, it's just so much stuff to where it's easy to contract something.
Back in the end zone, touchdown! What a catch by Tyler Lockett!
Well, you've now played with Russell Wilson for 5 seasons. What advice would you give to any receivers coming in, I guess including Greg Olsen, in terms of what to do when Russell's scrambling outside the pocket?
Just being able to stay alive. When Russ is scrambling, you got to know that anything is possible and that anything can happen. Who knows? He might run back 50 yards just to be able to get a head start to run forward and throw the ball. So it's all about just being able to stay alive and just trust your instincts. I think that sometimes we get so caught up in listening to coaches so much and we try to do the right thing and we don't want to mess up. And so we play a little tense. But when you play with Russ, you got to just be open to do anything and everything. There's times you might do the wrong thing and you still get the ball. There's times where you might run the wrong route, but you see scramble drill and you're able to get open. I think the biggest thing is just knowing that Russ is going to find you, and as long as y'all are compatible with the same mindset and he knows what you're thinking in practice, he's going to be able to find you and make anything work.
How would you describe the chemistry you have with Russell on the field?
I think it's breathtaking. I think it's something that's amazing, but I think it comes with a lot of mistakes in practice. Like, I don't really catch all the balls in practice. Like, I probably drop a good amount of balls in practice and stuff like that, but it's those mistakes that help turn into something beautiful when game time comes around. And those are the times where you rather make your mistakes is in practice than the games. But sometimes you do make mistakes in games, but it's just one thing about Russ is he always tries to correct it. If you drop a ball on a certain pass or if he doesn't do a type of throw that he wished he did, then he'll get the ball back and he'll try to recorrect it and try to get it out of his head right then and there. And I think that's something that we could just take with us throughout life is when we make mistakes, you might not be able to redo that moment of that mistake that you make, but you can relive it in your head and make a different decision and continue on.
Do you consider yourself a number one receiver, and do you think you get enough credit nationally?
I think I just pretty much consider myself just a football player, somebody that's willing to do anything and everything to win. I think sometimes people try to categorize you into a place where they kind of limit you and limit what you're capable of doing. But I think for me, I don't really think there's a way to categorize me because if they need me to do a punt or a kickoff return, I'm able to do that. If they need me to be able to go catch a pass or go get somebody else open, like I could do that. So I think like I'm an all-around football player that just knows what he needs to do at the right time to be successful or to allow his teammates to be successful in order for us to win the game.
What impressed you the most about DK Metcalf's season last year?
I think that the thing that impressed me the most was just how consistent he was. Obviously, it's different being able to come into the NFL, and he didn't really have a chance to play his senior season like he wanted to. And so being able to come in and being able to just see him pick up the offense, being able to see how dominant he could be, especially in practice, whenever you see the way that he brings that same intensity level to the games, you're able to see like so much growth, and you're able to see and imagine what it is that he could possibly do as he continues to get older throughout his whole entire career, because he's dominating as a rookie. Imagine what it's going to be like his second year and third year and fourth year and all the way until the end of his career.
Based on your experience going from year one to year two, where do you expect his biggest improvement to be this year?
I think he's just going to be more confident and more comfortable, being able to understand what he needs to do and what he doesn't need to do in order to get ready for a game. Whenever you're getting ready for your first year, everything's kind of up in the air. So sometimes you do too much, sometimes you do too little, but I think he kind of knows what needs to be done to get himself ready as he goes into camp, to get himself ready as he goes into games, and just knowing how to be able to take care of his body with a long type of season.
Have you guys had that 40-yard dash yet?
Nah, I retired from racing since college.
I know fans want to see it, so I understand though.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they want to see it, but I mean, you gotta do something more than the 40 because everybody can run the 40.
We live in a fractured society, especially politically, but you focused on sort of bridging that gap. What does that mean to you, and how have you been able to do that?
I think bridging the gap is just getting people to understand that you might be on one side of the road, but that doesn't mean that what you see is necessarily the truth about any and everybody in their life. There's different people that see different things, and who's to say that what you see is right or that's the way that it goes? And so it's being able to try to bridge the gap to get them to understand, to get them to try to listen. But you don't want to talk to somebody that's like a brick wall. You want to talk to somebody that's willing to listen because they don't understand, or they never was taught to understand, or they were taught things that were different. And it's just being able to get them to understand. Sometimes they think things are justified because the media says something. Other times they think things are justified because they think they were a bad person. But they don't realize that even their favorite players go through similar things when they're off the field and people don't know their names. Like, they don't realize the effects that it has when you do get pulled over by cops. They don't realize the effect it has of when we're driving in the car. If we see a cop, we're going to keep looking. And if we pass them, we look in the rear view mirror and we try to go a long distance to see if they move before we keep focusing on the road. Like, these are things that we focus on when we see that people like that are African Americans are dying. Like, it's hard for people to understand that if they never even tried to care or even figure out why or what's going on. So it's just being able to have those conversations, trying to find ways to bridge the gap. And for some, bridging the gap isn't for them. It's protesting, or for others, it's being able to make sure everybody's aware of what's going on. But it takes certain people to be able to figure out what's my role in this. And I felt like my role is to try to bridge the gap, and I'm trying to do that as best as I can.
What gives you hope that things can improve in this world?
What gives me hope is my faith in God. Like, that's the thing that gives me hope, and it's about being able to just change the generation of kids that's coming out. A lot of times people are taught things and they don't think it's bad, because there's people that's still living right now that was there during the segregation period, during the time when Martin Luther King was there. So the way that they saw life and the way that people still might see life is going to be different than what we're trying to get it to be now. And so if you can change the heart of the kids, where kids don't see color, kids don't see hate, like when you can change that, then you can be able to change something that was taught a long time ago.
Finally, what's your message to all the 12s out there who won't be at training camp and who probably won't be able to go to home games for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I would say my message to the 12s is just stay strong and really protect your mental, because that's very important, especially at this time. But be able to try to figure out what's important to you and how you can take advantage of these opportunities that you have when you're by yourself or when you're with your family. Like, spend time with those that you forgot about. Talk to those that you never got to talk to because you were too busy with work. Just find something that's going to get you through every single day and just try to enjoy it. Don't do it to survive, do it to thrive. And eventually we'll all come back and everything will be back to normal. But if you just wait for it to be back to normal, you'll miss everything that you need to get out of it.